Hi, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Coffee and Conversation right here on Yachting International Radio. My name is Ria. I am your host, and today I am pleased to introduce Tony Browne, Chairman of the Board of Porto Montenegro. It's a mouthful, isn't it? And the Global Marina Institute. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me.
Good. Well, thank you for joining. You're very, very busy. We were talking off air, and you are basically in charge of you've got titles for two different jobs. Not only the Global Marine Institute, but as well, you literally run Porto Montenegro, no?
Well, I run the marina side of Porto Montenegro. Yeah, I'm very lucky to be working under and with a fantastic team that we all collectively do it. But yeah, as the marina director of Porto Montenegro, I have a pretty full-on day. But it's a challenge that I really love.
Well, tell me a little bit about yourself. Where are you from, and what has sort of brought you to this point?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Tasmania, Australia. I grew up in a little beach village or town called Kingston. My parents were pretty adventurous to the point where my father actually fitted out a boat in the backyard of our house that we would go weekend sailing on once he eventually got it in the water. And to be honest, I hated it to start with, but I guess it gets under your skin. So yeah, sailing from a very early age, having a pretty adventurous lifestyle, and actually we eventually moved to an island off Tasmania. So I was living on an island, off an island, which
Wow.
was which was a bit of fun. But yeah, to the point where in my sort of late teens, I started teaching sail training on a square rigger that was working in Hobart, which led to an opportunity to work professionally on a square rig sailing vessel that was doing international voyages, which I did for about 3.5 years. And it was a fantastic place to really, I guess, have an apprenticeship. Not only to become qualified, gather sea time, that sort of stuff, and progress through the ranks, but you get a kind of apprenticeship on an old-time sailing ship that you just really don't see today. Some of the skills and the knowledge that those guys had was pretty impressive. So that was about 3.5 years, and a lot of miles, half a dozen Caribbean seasons and half a dozen Atlantic crossings, Indian Ocean and things. But I also rubbed shoulders with super yachts at that time and got to know all the crew and realized that actually there was honestly much better money in the super yacht industry. So switched over and then spent about 7 years, 6 or 7 years in charter and private vessels. The last one being a 40-meter that we were building out in Turkey. And the owner of that vessel was very good friends with the principal investor, Mr. Peter Monk of Porto Montenegro, back in 2006. And they were looking for somebody who had a yachting background, who could join the team to advise on what a super yacht marina, if they were going to build a new one, needed in order to be the best of the best in the world. And so that was a year's contract, and that was 13 years ago.
And here you are.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit about the marina. It's a very large marina. It encompasses quite the space.
Yeah, we have 65 hectares of water space. We haven't utilised all of that. We have permission from the government to build 850 berths. We've developed 450 so far.
Wow.
Of those, though, we have over 150 berths, over 30 metres for super yachts. 3 of those are 130 metres. And we also have a 250-metre berth alongside berth. So we've future-proofed. There's no boats big enough to sit in that berth at the moment, but we do use it for multiple vessels alongside. We've got a very big vessel sitting in that berth at the moment, so it's a pretty popular alongside berth. Porto Montenegro is located within a bay called the Boka Kotorska, which is completely protected from the sea. So we don't have any ground surge, ground swell in heavy weather. It's a very safe environment. We also have an upland development, which is 25 hectares. We've developed about 35% of that into a retail and residential village. It's a low density residential village with, right now, we've got about 300 or so apartments and 80 retail units. We've got a 5-star hotel with 84 hotel rooms, plus adjoining condo style hotel serviced apartments as well. We've got new developments underway, which we'll be releasing stories and editorials on pretty soon. So watch this space for those. And we're also developing a shipyard, which is about 1.5 miles from Porto Montenegro, which is a super yacht repair and maintenance facility that is hopefully will get some traction this winter. But again, watch this space, because there's some news coming out about that fairly soon.
Well, it just seems like it's growing and growing and getting bigger every single day.
It is, and it's really popular. The Adriatic is such a beautiful location to go cruising. We're seeing a lot of charters coming over here. We're also seeing a lot more boats being based over here as well, not only in Porto Montenegro, but up and down the Adriatic coast, the Croatian coast. The Croatian islands, you know, there's 1,000 islands here. It's I was very lucky in my sailing career. I did a couple of circumnavigations and saw arguably the world's top 10 places, and I would rank Croatia up there with any place in the world for its natural topography and island destination cruising lifestyle. But also it's got this really rich history, so you can go from one medieval walled coastal city to another pretty much every day. It's magical.
Nice. Well, one thing that you guys are known for is you were part of the pilot, you were pilot marina essentially for Seabin project. You are very concentrated on the environment. And does this go for every project within the marina and outside of the marina, for example, the buildings, etc.?
It does, as much as we possibly can. So we, for instance, well, when we first started in 2007, we took over what was then the, Austro-Hungarian Yugoslavian shipyard. It had a 120-year history. We took that over, and the first thing that I did was ban fishing in the marina itself. It doesn't seem like much, but actually if the fish can regenerate, then they actually create their own habitat, which is natural. So we went from what was pretty much a lunar landscape on the seabed with no fish, because there were 400 staff here when we took over, 400 state-employed staff that would come down and fish for their lunch. That was fine. But we went from a pretty barren ecosystem and environment to a thriving marine ecosystem that's almost like a reserve now. You know, we have sea turtles coming in, we have mahi-mahi, dolphin fish, coming into the marina, loads and loads of small mullet type fish that are skimming the surface, right down to the microscopic organisms that are hanging off all of the piles on the jetties. So it's a really good way to create a natural environment. But then other things that we've done, we use electric vehicles, excuse me, electric vehicles throughout the entire marina. And in order to charge those, we have solar panels on all our substations, on all our electrical substations. So we're feeding into the grid and then drawing out of the grid to charge the electric vehicles. So it's pretty much zero emissions style there scenario. The Seabin, which was something that I actually saw when the two entrepreneurs, the inventor and the product designer, when they released their video that went viral, I guess it was about in 2014 or 15, we sent them a series of emails, but everybody saw it, and so they were getting loads of emails. And I actually tracked them down at Mets one year and said, right, you guys, we've got to do something with this. We've got to get involved. And so we did become their first pilot partner. And we have 3 Seabins in the marina at the moment, which are working 24/7, collecting amazing amounts of trash out of the sea. Amazing, not in a good way, not in a good way as well. But it's just a passive way of collecting this floating debris 24/7, and it's very.
So then coming onto land, yes, you have the electric vehicles. What about the buildings themselves? Is there any nods towards the environment in how they're built or in how they exist, heating, etc.?
I mean, they are to a degree, as much as you can with a modern development. We do take into account the solar cycles, sun shading, that sort of thing. They all have pergolas. Actually, we have a lot of green planting around the village as well, which is very effective for cooling the overall village. Obviously, a development of any style, there's a lot of concrete that has to be used, a lot of hard surfacing. But with the planting that we have a great cooling effect there, which really helps the overall, not only ambience, but it really is effective in cooling the location itself. We've used light coloured stone around the marina, out onto the jetties. In fact, we have palm trees that are extending half a kilometre out into the sea on our jetties, so that the crew, when they're at the back of the boat at 5 o'clock or whatever, they might knock off for a sundowner. They can sit on the nice park benches that we have there and sit under the palm trees out on the jetties.
Nice.
So simple things like that, which mean that people need to use less energy in order to keep cool, and it's quite effective. The buildings themselves also have great, I guess, chimney effect in them, so people can open up windows and get natural venting throughout the buildings. We always have a fantastic sea breeze here in the summer, so the natural environment of Montenegro is a very good, I guess, backbone to start on using these simple passive initiatives that we try and incorporate.
Now, when it comes to the shipyard, I mean, a shipyard is probably one of the most difficult things to make environmentally friendly because of what is involved, the materials involved, and everything else involved with refits and building. But how are you guys going to go about keeping that as environmentally friendly as possible?
Well, I mean, there's best practice that has been in play for several years now, and even decades, in superyacht repair and maintenance facilities. So I don't think we're going to be doing anything new. We're going to certainly tag on the back of these best practices that are in practice now. We actually, as Porto Montenegro, we are a marina. We have a partner, a shipyard operator, that is the expert. So we're along for the ride with them as a joint investor. But yeah, we'll certainly be incorporating every best practice that we possibly can to ensure that it's as environmentally friendly as you can do, which is quite high in superyacht repair and maintenance facilities these days.
Good. Well, tell me a little bit about the Global Marine Institute. This is a fairly new thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it was established in 2011. The idea was that it sort of grew out of the Australian Marina Association and the European and British Marina Associations, saying, well, we've got these associations, we should get together to ensure that there's a governing body that provides consistency across marina design and build, marina best practice, operational practices, environmental operational procedures, but also in training and certification. So that's been aligned over the last 9 or so years. And yeah, the previous chair of the Global Marina Institute, Mr. John Hogan, he stepped down last year at Metz, and I was put forward to chair, and I was very honoured to be put forward for that, and absolutely accepted it. So it's a fantastic thing that has been created by a really good group of people, and we hope to continue to create consistency in operational practice and training as we move forward.
Well, and the marinas that you work with right now are mainly in Europe and England, for example?
And Australia. Yeah,
and Australia, okay.
Yeah. The American has their own industry association as well, and we do actually have a very good relationship and affiliation with them. It's not the same, they're not under the Global Marina Institute as such in a kind of signed documentation way, but we have very, very close affiliation with them, and we expect that to happen in the very near future.
Do you think that eventually there will become sort of one standard that goes straight across the face of the planet?
I think in most marinas there already is that standard. Everybody's striving to ensure that, particularly as the environmental is becoming more and more an important topic, is striving to operate to the highest level. Not only for environment, but it's also the customer is changing. You know, marinas used to be about a place to park a boat, and if you could find someone to help you do that, you were lucky. Now it's full service, and I think probably Porto Montenegro, I mean, it's easy for me to say this, but I've heard this from third parties as well. Our marina consultants have said that Porto Montenegro really did set a new benchmark in marina service, that a lot of other places are striving to reach for as well, which is great because there's marinas and marinas. We're a superyacht marina. We have a lot of crew, we have a lot of captains, we have a lot of key stakeholders on board the boat that are trying to operate and create the best possible environment for the charter guests or owners that may be on the yacht. And what we try to do is create both an amazing environment for the charter guest and owner, but also treat the captains and the crew like they're the guest in the marina. so that they have a fantastic experience, but also so that they can be sure that the guests are receiving a fantastic experience on board as well, with as limited effort as possible. You know, they're complicated pieces of kit, and there's a lot of moving pieces into creating the ultimate charter. So if we can help them do it, then that's what we try to do.
So essentially, it's really its own industry.
It is.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, the moving bits of it's sort of, it's part land and it's part water. It's not just, you know, with the yachting industry, it's mainly water, to a certain extent. But for you, you have to cover both aspects.
We do. I mean, we've got a big development. So we have apartment owners. Our real estate is certainly a luxury product, and it comes at the price tag to reflect the product there. So the people that do buy it have certain expectations in standards levels that we strive to achieve, and definitely produce those results for them on the real estate side of things. And then we have the marina. So I've got 10-meter boats that are day boats where people would go out for a day. I've got 15-meter boats that owner skippered. And then we've got right up to the 150-meter super yachts. Okay, so every single person is involved in that sphere in order to create the best possible charter and environment for the guests and the owners on that yacht. And we try and create the best possible environment for them to succeed in that. And I think we've done that.
Wonderful. Well, tell me a little bit more about the Seabin before I let you go, because I know you're a very busy man. But this Seabin project, it is gaining in popularity straight across the planet. But is it gaining in popularity quick enough? Who exactly are taking, I mean, your marina took it on board. I know, for example, in Mallorca, Port Adriano has taken it on board. Is it moving quick enough, in your opinion?
I don't think anything can ever move quick enough in order to help resolve the issues that we have globally with regards to the environment. I'm not really an alarmist type person, but we do face some pretty serious problems. The Seabin is unfortunately, if it's successful, then it's a dying business model. And I'm very good friends with Pete, and he'll agree with me, who is the product designer. He'll and CEO, he'll agree with me. And he says this himself, in terms of if it can be successful and have influence alongside all the other environmental influences that we have out there at the moment, to turn off the tap, then you'll no longer need the Seabin, and we're in a perfect world. And that's what's really required. We have to turn off the tap.
Yeah. They're
creating a solution, and he's not in it for the money. They're not in it for the money. They're in it to save the environment. Their business model is fantastic. They're putting 50% back into education. They'd like to have a circular style product creation or manufacturing where the plastics that they pull out of the Seabin will actually go in to make the new Seabins in the future.
Nice.
So they're really, really down to earth and fundamentally environmentally driven, rather than trying to cash in on what is an amazing invention. And like I said, he said so himself, if we can influence everybody to turn off the tap of this plastic problem that we have, then hopefully no one will need a Seabin in the future.
That's absolutely amazing. Well, maybe I can get you to get me in touch with him, because I would really like to have a chat and bring him on air and get some of his wisdom.
Absolutely, no problem at all. He's a great guy. He's very, very busy, but he's also really good in interviews. He's so down to earth and comes across really wonderfully. So I'd be more than happy to introduce you.
Wonderful. Well, I'll look forward to that. Tony, I thank you ever so much for your time. It has been an absolute pleasure to host you here.
No, pleasure's all mine. Thank you for the time in doing this. Yeah, I look forward to seeing the interview with Pete from Seabin as well.
Well, and I'd like to have you back as things progress over there in Porto Montenegro, because it sounds like there's a lot going on and you have some great initiatives, and it's great to sort of spread that news around the world. Yeah,
no problem. Anytime. And if you're ever out this way, we'd love to see you here. We'll show you what we do out here at Porto Montenegro. You can have a look at the Seabin and many other things that we do, because Porto Montenegro really is all about, you have to see it to believe it. It's something quite special. So
Well, I
I,
was blessed enough before we came on air that you showed me out your front window, the bay, and it does look stunning even on a cloudy day. So I can imagine on a beautiful sunny day.
yeah, can't do anything about the weather. That's the one thing we can't control. But
No.
even on a bad day, it looks good.
Okay, well, thank you again. That has been Tony Browne. He is from Porto Montenegro and as well the Global Marine Institute, and we look forward to hearing more from him in the near future. You have been listening to another edition of Coffee and Conversation right here on Yachting International Radio.